The massive space station called Concordia floated in empty space between three solar systems. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its ports every day. Today was special. Today, the most important peace talks in 50 years would begin. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stepped off her small transport ship. She wore simple gray robes that reached her ankles. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She carried only a small bag with her diplomatic papers and a few personal items. She looked exactly like what everyone expected from a human diplomat: quiet, calm, and peaceful. The docking bay was full of aliens from many different worlds. Some had scales, others had fur. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. But they all stepped aside when they saw Elena's diplomatic badge. Humans had built a reputation as the best peacemakers in the galaxy. Elena walked through the station's main corridor. Her soft shoes made no sound on the metal floor. She nodded politely to everyone she passed. Her brown eyes took in everything around her, but she seemed relaxed and friendly. The station's commander, a tall, blue-skinned Alteran named Jorix, met her at the elevator. "Ambassador Vasquez, welcome to Concordia. We are honored to host these talks." "Thank you, Commander Jorix. I hope we can bring peace to this region." Elena's voice was soft and warm. She spoke perfect Alteran, which made Jorix smile. They rode the elevator to the diplomatic level. Jorix explained the situation. The Zephyrian Empire has been expanding for 20 years. They have already taken 12 worlds from smaller civilizations. The Talari Coalition is their next target. If we cannot make peace here, millions will die. Elena nodded slowly. "I have studied both cultures. The Zephyrians respect strength above all else. The Talari value wisdom and cooperation. Finding common ground will be challenging, but not impossible." The elevator doors opened to reveal a long hallway lined with meeting rooms. At the far end was the main conference hall where the talks would happen. Elena could see delegates from both sides already gathering. The Zephyrians were impossible to miss. They stood nearly 8 feet tall with thick scales covering their bodies. Their heads looked like ancient earth reptiles with sharp teeth and cold yellow eyes. They wore black uniforms with red symbols showing their military ranks. Even their diplomats looked like warriors. The Talari were much smaller. They had pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Their bodies were thin and graceful. They wore flowing white robes decorated with silver patterns. They moved quietly and spoke in whispers to each other. "The Zephyrians arrived 2 days ago," Jorix explained. "Their leader is War Commander Scareth. He has fought in 16 battles and never lost. The Talari delegation is led by Elder Miriam. She is one of their greatest philosophers." Elena studied both groups from a distance. She watched how they moved, how they positioned themselves, how they reacted to each other. The Zephyrians stood with their backs straight and their hands near their weapons. The Talari huddled together like frightened children. "Has there been any trouble between them?" Elena asked. "Small incidents. Insults mostly. The Zephyrians call the Talari weak prey animals. The Talari say the Zephyrians are mindless brutes. Standard diplomatic tensions." Elena walked closer to the conference hall. As she approached, both groups turned to look at her. The Zephyrians sneered. They had little respect for humans, seeing them as another weak species that preferred talking to fighting. The Talari looked hopeful. Human diplomats had prevented 3 wars in the past decade. War Commander Scareth stepped forward. He was larger than the other Zephyrians, with battle scars covering his arms and neck, his yellow eyes fixed on Elena like a predator studying prey. "So the humans send us a small female in robes," Scareth said in heavily accented standard. "Do they think we are children who need a school teacher?" Elena met his gaze without fear. She spoke in perfect Zephyrian, her pronunciation flawless. "War Commander Scareth, I am Ambassador Elena Vasquez. I come here with respect for all warriors and hope for all peoples." Scareth's eyes widened slightly. "Few humans spoke Zephyrian so well. You know our language." "Good. Then you will understand when I tell you that these talks are pointless. The weak exist to serve the strong. That is natural law. I understand your words, Commander. I also understand that even the strongest warrior must sometimes choose his battles carefully." Elena's voice remained calm and respectful, but there was something in her tone that made Scareth look at her more closely. Elder Miriam approached them. She was old even by Talari standards, her blue skin wrinkled with age, but her dark eyes were sharp and intelligent. "Ambassador Vasquez, we are grateful for your presence. Perhaps human wisdom can find a path where we see only darkness." Elena bowed slightly to the elder. "I will do my best, Elder Miriam. Peace benefits everyone, even those who profit from war. The opening ceremony began an hour later. Representatives from 20 different worlds gathered in the conference hall. Elena sat at the center table, with the Zephyrians on her right and the Talari on her left. The other delegates formed a circle around them. Commander Jorix read the formal opening statement. Each delegation presented their position. The Zephyrians demanded that the Talari surrender 3 of their outer worlds and pay tribute every year. In return, they promised not to attack the remaining Talari planets for 10 years. The Talari counter-offer was simple: complete withdrawal of Zephyrian forces from their territory and a promise of non-aggression. Both sides rejected the other's terms immediately. Elena let the shouting continue for several minutes. She watched each delegate carefully, noting who spoke loudest, who stayed quiet, who seemed truly angry, and who was just performing. Finally, she stood up. The hall fell silent. "I have listened to your positions," Elena said in Standard, then repeated her words in both Zephyrian and Talari. "I understand your concerns. But before we continue, perhaps we should remember why we are here." She walked to the center of the room. "War is easy. Peace is hard. War gives quick answers. Peace requires patience and wisdom. War makes some people rich and powerful while destroying others. Peace benefits everyone," Scareth laughed harshly. "Pretty words, human. But words do not stop plasma cannons or invasion fleets." "No, they do not," Elena agreed. "But they can prevent the need for cannons and fleets. Commander, you have won 16 battles. How many soldiers have you lost?" "Victory requires sacrifice," Scareth replied, but his voice was slightly less confident. "Indeed it does. Elder Miriam, your people have survived for 3,000 years. How did you manage this without conquering other worlds?" The old Talari woman smiled sadly. "We learned to bend instead of breaking. We learned that wisdom is stronger than weapons." Elena nodded. 2 different approaches to survival, but both require careful thought about the future. "Perhaps we can find a way to honor both perspectives." She returned to her seat. "I propose we spend tomorrow examining specific concerns. What resources does each side truly need? What fears drive your actions? What hopes do you share?" The session continued for 3 more hours. Elena guided the discussion carefully, preventing arguments from escalating while encouraging both sides to explain their deeper motivations. She seemed to know exactly when to speak and when to listen, when to push and when to step back. As the day ended, delegates from both sides found themselves cautiously optimistic. The human diplomat had managed something no one expected. She had gotten Zephyrians and Talari to actually listen to each other. But as Elena walked back to her quarters that evening, her peaceful demeanor remained unchanged. She smiled politely at everyone she passed. She looked exactly like what she appeared to be, a skilled diplomat working to prevent a war. Only the security cameras caught the way her eyes automatically mapped every corridor, every exit, every potential weapon. They recorded how she unconsciously moved to keep walls at her back and clear lines of sight ahead. If anyone had studied the footage carefully, they might have wondered why a diplomat moved like someone expecting an attack at any moment. 3 days had passed since the peace talks began on Concordia Station. Elena had worked 18 hours each day, meeting with delegates, reviewing proposals, and slowly building trust between 2 species that hated each other. The morning session had not gone well. War Commander Scareth had grown tired of what he called endless chatter about nothing. When Elder Miriam suggested a compromise on mining rights, Scareth had slammed his massive fist on the table. "Enough of this foolishness," he had roared. "The Zephyrian Empire does not beg for scraps from prey animals. We take what we need because we are strong enough to take it." Elena had remained calm throughout his outburst. "Commander, anger is a tool like any other. It can build or destroy depending on how it is used. Do not lecture me about tools, human. Your species has made this galaxy weak with your endless talking and compromising. Real warriors settle disputes with strength, not words." "Perhaps we should take a break," Elena had suggested quietly. Strong emotions often lead to poor decisions. The session had ended with Scareth storming out, followed by his advisors. Several other delegates worried that the talks would collapse completely. Elena had spent the afternoon meeting privately with the Talari delegation, assuring them that setbacks were normal in complex negotiations. Now evening had come to the station. The artificial day-night cycle dimmed the corridor lights and reduced foot traffic. Elena finished her last meeting with Elder Miriam and walked toward her quarters in the diplomatic section. She chose her usual route through the maintenance corridors. The main corridors were always crowded, and Elena preferred quieter paths where she could think without interruption. At least that was the reason she gave when anyone asked. The real reason was that the maintenance corridors offered better tactical advantages. They had multiple exit points, fewer civilians to worry about, and walls thick enough to stop most weapons fire. Elena moved through the narrow passages with easy familiarity. After 3 days, she knew every turn, every junction, every potential choke point. Her soft diplomatic shoes made no sound on the metal grating. She was halfway to her quarters when she sensed something wrong. The corridor ahead was too quiet. The usual hum of air recyclers and power conduits seemed muffled. Elena slowed her pace and let her senses expand outward, the way she had been trained long ago. 6 heartbeats. Elevated pulse rates indicating stress or excitement. The scent of Zephyrian pheromones, which meant fear or aggression. The slight vibration of movement trying to stay hidden. Elena continued walking at the same steady pace. To any observer, she looked like a tired diplomat heading home after a long day. But her mind was now operating on a completely different level. Target assessment. 6 hostiles. Probably Zephyrian based on scent markers. Position. Spread across the corridor intersection 30 meters ahead. Equipment unknown but likely military grade. Civilian clothes to avoid detection. Weapon assessment. Elena carried no obvious weapons. Her diplomatic badge, stylus, and datapad were the only metal objects on her person. But she had learned long ago that everything could be a weapon with proper training. Escape routes. The corridor behind her led back to the main diplomatic section. Too many civilians at risk. The air vent overhead was too small. The maintenance shaft to her left was blocked by debris. Only one viable option: forward through the ambush. Elena reached into her robe and pulled out her datapad as if checking something. The movement looked casual, but it also gave her fingers access to the device's sharp metal edges. The attack came exactly where Elena expected it. 6 Zephyrian soldiers stepped out from concealment at the corridor intersection. They wore civilian clothes, but Elena could see the outline of body armor underneath. Each carried a plasma pistol and a combat knife. "Human diplomat," the leader called out in accented standard. "You come with us now." "No fighting, no one gets hurt?" Elena stopped walking and tilted her head slightly. "I am sorry, but I do not understand. Is there some problem with the diplomatic protocols?" The leader stepped closer. He was young for a Zephyrian, probably chosen for this mission because he could pass for a civilian worker. "No problem. We just want to talk to you somewhere private. I am always available for discussion through proper channels. Perhaps you could contact my office tomorrow and arrange a meeting." The soldiers exchanged glances. This was not going according to their plan. They had expected fear, maybe an attempt to run or call for help. Instead, the small human woman seemed genuinely confused by their presence. "No office. No tomorrow. You come now." The leader raised his plasma pistol slightly, not quite pointing it at Elena but making the threat clear. Elena nodded slowly. "I see. You are not here for diplomatic discussion." The corridor suddenly felt different. The temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Elena's posture had not changed, but something in her manner made the Zephyrians shift nervously. "Smart human," the leader said. "Very smart. Now you understand. Move toward the cargo bay, slow and easy." Elena took a step forward, then another. The soldiers relaxed slightly, thinking their mission was succeeding. That was their first mistake. Elena's movement seemed to continue naturally from her walking pace, but suddenly she was not where the soldiers expected her to be. The datapad spun through the air like a metal disc, its sharp edge catching the leader across the throat before he could react. The soldier to Elena's left tried to bring his weapon up, but found his wrist trapped in an iron grip. Elena used his own momentum to drive him face first into the corridor wall. The plasma pistol clattered to the floor. The third soldier managed to fire a shot, but Elena was already moving. The energy bolt scorched the air where she had been standing. Elena dropped low and swept the soldier's legs out from under him. As he fell, her elbow found the pressure point below his jaw. The remaining 3 soldiers tried to coordinate their attack, but the narrow corridor worked against them. They got in each other's way while Elena seemed to flow like water around their movements. The 4th soldier swung his combat knife in a wide arc. Elena caught his wrist and twisted, using his own strength to dislocate his shoulder. The knife fell from nerveless fingers. The fifth soldier tried to grab Elena from behind while his partner aimed carefully. Elena dropped to one knee and drove her elbow backward into the soldier's midsection. As he doubled over, she grabbed his head and used it to block his partner's line of fire. The last soldier found himself facing Elena alone in the corridor. His 5 companions lay unconscious or groaning on the floor around them. The entire fight had taken less than 30 seconds. "Please," Elena said in perfect Zephyrian, her voice still calm and diplomatic. "Do not make this more difficult than necessary." The soldier looked at his fallen comrades, then at the small human woman who had defeated them without breaking a sweat. He dropped his weapon and raised his hands. Elena picked up one of the plasma pistols and checked its power level. Still fully charged. She pointed it at the floor and discharged it safely, then did the same with the other weapons. "Maintenance to Section 7 Alpha," she said into her communicator, her voice returning to its usual gentle tone. "Minor security incident requiring cleanup. No injuries reported." As she waited for station security to arrive, Elena straightened her diplomatic robes and checked her appearance in the corridor's polished metal wall. Her hair was still neat. Her clothes were undamaged. She looked exactly like she had before the attack. The only sign that anything had happened was the way she stood among 6 unconscious Zephyrian soldiers, completely calm and completely in control. When Commander Jorix arrived with the security team 10 minutes later, he found Elena sitting quietly on a maintenance crate, reading something on a backup datapad. The attackers were secured with their own restraints and beginning to regain consciousness. "Ambassador Vasquez, are you injured? What happened here?" Elena looked up with a concerned expression. "I am fine, Commander. These individuals seem to be lost. When I offered to help them find their way, they became quite aggressive. I defended myself as best I could." Jorix stared at the 6 defeated soldiers, then at the small human diplomat. "You defended yourself? Against 6 trained fighters?" Elena smiled sadly. "Violence is always unfortunate, Commander, but sometimes it cannot be avoided. I do hope this incident will not interfere with tomorrow's negotiations." As the security team carried away the unconscious Zephyrians, Elena walked calmly back to her quarters. Behind her, Commander Jorix stood in the empty corridor, trying to understand what he had just witnessed. In her quarters, Elena activated the privacy shield and sent a brief coded message to Earth. "Diplomatic security protocols initiated. No further assistance required at this time." Then she prepared for bed, setting her alarm for the early morning session. Tomorrow would be challenging, but she was confident the peace talks could continue. After all, she was just a diplomat trying to prevent a war. News of the attack spread through Concordia Station like fire through dry grass. By morning, every delegate knew that 6 Zephyrian soldiers had tried to ambush the human diplomat. What they did not understand was how Elena had survived. War Commander Scareth arrived at the conference hall earlier than usual. His yellow eyes burned with anger as he addressed the gathered delegates. "The soldiers who attacked the human acted without orders. The Zephyrian Empire does not condone such behavior during diplomatic negotiations." Elder Miriam studied Scareth's face carefully. "Your words sound official, Commander, but I hear no surprise in your voice. Did you truly not know of this plan?" "I knew nothing," Scareth replied, but his tone suggested otherwise. "However, I demand an explanation. How did a mere diplomat defeat 6 trained warriors? What weapons was she hiding?" Commander Jorix activated the main display screen. "Station security has reviewed all footage from the incident. Ambassador Vasquez carried no weapons. She used only what was available in the corridor and her own physical abilities." The screen showed the attack from 3 different angles. The delegates watched in stunned silence as Elena moved through the ambush like a dancer performing a deadly ballet. Every movement was precise, controlled, efficient. She wasted no energy and made no unnecessary motions. "This is impossible," one of the Alteran delegates whispered. "Humans are not warriors. They are diplomats, traders, scientists. They avoid violence whenever possible." "Most humans do avoid violence," a new voice said from the doorway. "But not all of us." Elena entered the conference hall wearing fresh diplomatic robes. She looked exactly as she had every other day, calm, professional, peaceful. But now the other delegates saw her differently. They had watched her fight. They knew what those soft hands could do. "Ambassador Vasquez," Scareth rumbled, "explain how you killed my soldiers." I killed no one, Commander. All 6 individuals are recovering in the station medical bay. They will have headaches and bruises, but no permanent damage. You defeated 6 armed warriors without weapons. How? Elena sat down at her usual place at the center table. I defended myself using skills learned during my military service before joining the Diplomatic Corps. The hall erupted in surprised voices. Delegates turned to each other asking questions in a dozen different languages. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful people. The idea of a human soldier seemed like a contradiction. Elder Miriam raised her hand for silence. Ambassador, perhaps you could explain this military service? Most species know humans as diplomats and merchants, not warriors. Elena nodded slowly. That is exactly what we prefer them to know. But the truth is more complex. She stood and walked to the center of the room the same way she had during previous sessions. But now her movement looked different to the watching delegates. They could see the controlled power in her steps, the way she positioned herself to watch all exits, the calm readiness in her posture. Humanity entered galactic society 200 years ago. We were new, weak, technologically behind most established civilizations. Many species saw us as easy targets for conquest or exploitation. Elena paused, letting her words sink in. We tried pure diplomacy first. We offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, peaceful cooperation. Some species accepted our friendship. Others decided to test human resolve with force. Scareth leaned forward in his chair. What happened to those who tested you? They learned that humans can be very good at war when necessary. But we discovered something important. Military victory alone does not create lasting peace. Fear and hatred eventually lead to revenge. So we developed a different approach. Elena returned to her seat but remained standing behind her chair. We became the galaxy's diplomats. We positioned ourselves as neutral mediators, peaceful negotiators, bridge builders between hostile species. This reputation is genuine. We truly prefer peaceful solutions. But, Elder Miriam prompted, but every human diplomat receives comprehensive military training before their first assignment. We learn languages, customs, and negotiation techniques. We also learn how to end conflicts quickly and decisively when talking fails. The room fell silent except for the hum of air recyclers. Elena's revelation changed everything the delegates thought they knew about humans. How many human diplomats have this training? Asked the Alteran representative. All of us. Every human who represents our government in alien territory is a fully qualified combat specialist. We hope never to use these skills, but we are prepared when circumstances require it. Scareth stood up slowly. His massive frame towered over Elena, but she did not step back or show any sign of fear. You are saying that humans have been lying to the galaxy for 2 centuries? Not lying. Choosing what to emphasize. We genuinely want peace. We work hard to prevent wars and resolve conflicts through negotiation. But we also understand that some individuals only respect strength. Elena's voice remained calm and diplomatic, but there was steel underneath the silk. Commander, your soldiers attacked me because they believed humans were weak and helpless. They learned otherwise. Perhaps this lesson has value for these negotiations. The Zephyrian war commander studied Elena with new interest. You fought well for someone so small. Where did you learn such skills? I served with the Final Sanction Division before joining the Diplomatic Corps. We specialized in ending conflicts that threatened galactic stability. Several delegates had never heard of this unit. Elena explained without revealing classified details. Final Sanction operatives work alone or in small teams. Our mission is to eliminate specific threats that conventional military forces cannot handle effectively. Assassination, Scareth said bluntly. Sometimes. Other times we extract key individuals, destroy critical infrastructure, or gather intelligence. Whatever the situation requires. Elena's tone made it clear she felt no shame about her past service. Elder Miriam looked troubled. Ambassador, this revelation changes our understanding of human methods. How do we know your peaceful intentions are genuine? Elena smiled for the first time that morning. Elder, look at our actions over the past 2 centuries. How many unprovoked wars has humanity started? How many peaceful species have we conquered? How many times have we used force when negotiation might have worked? The Elder considered this carefully. According to galactic records, humans have been involved in ending 17 major conflicts, but have never initiated aggressive action against another species. Exactly. We learned that the most effective warriors are those who never need to fight. Fear of human military power keeps some aggressive species at the negotiating table, but we only use that power when attacked first or when innocent lives are threatened. Scareth laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. So the galaxy's peacemakers are actually deadly predators in disguise. How human. We are what circumstances made us, Commander. Your empire has expanded through conquest for 20 years. The Talari coalition faces extinction. Conventional diplomacy was failing. Perhaps it is time for a different approach. Elena walked around the table until she stood directly in front of Scareth. The size difference was dramatic. He was nearly twice her height and probably 4 times her weight. But she looked up at him without fear. You respect strength, Commander. You believe might makes right. Very well. I propose we settle this dispute the way your people prefer. What do you mean? Single combat. You and me, winner takes all. If you defeat me, the Zephyrian Empire may proceed with its invasion of Talari space. No human interference. If I win, your forces withdraw immediately and permanently. The conference hall exploded in voices. Delegates shouted objections, questions, warnings. The idea of a small human diplomat fighting a massive Zephyrian war commander seemed insane. Scareth stared down at Elena for long moments. You would risk everything on personal combat? I would risk everything on human principles, Commander. We believe in the strength of our convictions. Are you willing to do the same? The Zephyrian commander's scarred face twisted into something that might have been a smile. Little human, I have killed warriors twice your size with my bare hands. I have never lost in single combat. Are you certain you want to die for these weak prey animals? Elena's answering smile was gentle and sad. Commander, I have prevented 3 wars, ended 2 terrorist organizations, and eliminated 17 threats to galactic peace. I am very good at my job. Which job? Diplomat or killer? Both. They are more closely related than most people realize. Scareth extended his massive clawed hand. I accept your challenge, human. We fight tomorrow at dawn. Galactic Standard Time. No weapons except what nature gave us. Elena shook his hand without hesitation. Her small fingers disappeared completely in his grasp, but she did not flinch when his claws pressed against her skin. Agreed, Commander. May the strongest prevail. As news of the combat challenge spread throughout the station, Elena returned to her quarters to prepare. She sent another coded message to Earth. Sanction protocols fully authorized. Request permission to demonstrate human diplomatic methods. The reply came within minutes. Permission granted. Show them why we are called peacemakers. Elena smiled as she began her preparations. Tomorrow would not be a fight. It would be a lesson in human diplomacy delivered in the only language Scareth truly understood. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had become the most effective. The challenge announcement sent shockwaves through Concordia Station and beyond. Within hours, news feeds across the galaxy carried the story. A human diplomat had challenged a Zephyrian war commander to single combat, with the fate of an entire civilization hanging in the balance. War commander. Scareth spent the evening in his quarters, reviewing combat footage and preparing his weapons. Technically, the fight would be unarmed, but Zephyrians possessed natural weapons that few other species could match. His claws could slice through metal, his fangs could crush bone, and his scales provided natural armor against most attacks. He studied recordings of Elena's fight with his soldiers, analyzing her movements frame by frame. She was fast, skilled, and completely ruthless in combat, but she was also small, fragile, and had only defeated surprised opponents in a confined space. In open combat against a prepared warrior, she would have no chance. The human is either very brave or very stupid, he told his aide, a younger Zephyrian named Krex. Either way, she will die tomorrow. Krex nodded respectfully. Commander, our intelligence sources confirm that this Elena Vasquez served in something called Final Sanction. But human military records are classified. We know very little about their actual capabilities. It does not matter, Scareth growled. I have fought humans before during border conflicts. They are clever and determined, but physically weak. This diplomat may have special training, but she cannot overcome the laws of nature. In another part of the station, the Talari delegation gathered in Elder Miriam's quarters. The mood was somber. Their hopes for survival now rested on the outcome of a fight between their human advocate and the enemy commander. Elder, surely there must be another way, pleaded Counselor Vec, a younger Talari with deep blue skin. The human ambassador has done much for us, but asking her to face Scareth in combat is madness. Miriam stared out the viewport at the stars beyond. Child, I have lived for 140 years. I have seen our people survive through wisdom, patience, and careful alliances. But sometimes survival requires different choices. You think she can win. I think she would not have made this challenge without good reason. Humans do not act impulsively, especially their diplomats. If Elena Vasquez believes she can defeat Scareth, then perhaps we should trust her judgment. Across the station, other delegates held similar conversations. Some species had placed bets on the outcome. The odds heavily favored Scareth. A few observers compared it to watching a house cat challenge a battle-trained war beast. Elena herself spent the evening in meditation and preparation. She had not eaten since the challenge was issued, following a fasting protocol designed to optimize physical performance. Her quarters were arranged for combat training, with furniture moved aside to create an open space. She practiced forms that had no names in any galactic language. Movement patterns developed by humans specifically for fighting larger, stronger opponents. Each technique was designed to turn an enemy's size and strength against them. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Elena paused her training and activated the secure communication channel. The face that appeared on her screen belonged to Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of Earth's Special Operations Division. Elena had served under Chen for 5 years before transferring to the Diplomatic Corps. Elena, I heard about your situation. Command wants to know if you need backup. Elena smiled at her former commander. Thank you, Admiral, but this is a diplomatic matter, one that requires a diplomatic solution. Fighting a Zephyrian war commander hand-to-hand is your idea of diplomacy? Sometimes the most effective negotiations happen without words, Sarah. Scareth understands strength. Tomorrow I will speak to him in his native language. Admiral Chen studied Elena's face through the video link. You look calm for someone about to fight for their life. Because I am not fighting for my life. I am demonstrating why humans became the galaxy's premier peacekeepers. There is a difference. Care to explain? Elena moved closer to the camera. Every species in this galaxy knows humans as diplomats and merchants. They see us as physically weak but intellectually gifted. This reputation serves us well in most situations, but not all situations. Exactly. Some individuals like Scareth only respect superior force. They see peaceful negotiation as weakness. With such people, we must occasionally reveal the other side of human nature. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. The side that conquered Earth's predators and built cities from raw wilderness. The side that survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and the transition to space travel. Humans are not naturally peaceful, Sarah. We learned to be peaceful because we became too good at war. The Admiral's expression grew serious. Elena, Scareth has never lost a fight. He has killed opponents with his bare hands. Are you certain about this? I am certain that tomorrow the galaxy will understand something important about humanity. We prefer peace not because we are weak, but because we know the cost of war better than most. After ending the communication, Elena returned to her preparations. She reviewed Scareth's combat history, studying every recorded battle. The Zephyrian was indeed a formidable warrior, but he fought like his species had always fought, with brute force and overwhelming aggression. Elena had learned different lessons during her military service. Human warriors studied their enemies, found weaknesses and exploited them with surgical precision. They did not win through strength alone, but through intelligence applied to violence. She activated her personal files and reviewed her own service record. 17 successful missions with final sanction. 3 wars prevented through targeted elimination of key figures. 2 terrorist organizations dismantled through strategic strikes. 0 mission failures. Elena was not just a diplomat who could fight. She was a professional killer who had learned to prefer negotiation. As the station's artificial night cycle progressed, word of the coming combat spread beyond Concordia. Betting pools opened on worlds throughout the galaxy. Military analysts debated human combat capabilities based on limited data. Diplomatic observers wondered if this would change humanity's role in galactic politics. On the Zephyrian homeworld, the Imperial Council watched live feeds with interest. If Scareth won, it would confirm their belief in Zephyrian superiority and justify their expansion policies. If he lost, that outcome seemed impossible. The Talari Coalition's government held an emergency session. Some members wanted to recall their delegation and surrender to the Zephyrians, rather than risk everything on a single fight. Others argued that they had already committed to this path and must see it through. On Earth, the Global Defense Council monitored the situation closely. Elena's challenge had not been authorized through normal channels, but her service record gave her significant operational discretion. If she failed, humanity's reputation as effective peacekeepers would suffer severe damage. As dawn approached on Concordia Station, crowds gathered in the main observation deck overlooking the combat arena. The arena was typically used for recreational sports, but today it would host something far more serious. Elena arrived early wearing simple gray exercise clothing instead of her diplomatic robes. She carried no equipment except a small water bottle. Her dark hair was braided back to keep it out of her eyes during combat. Scareth arrived with great ceremony, flanked by his advisors and accompanied by ceremonial music. He wore traditional Zephyrian combat gear, black leather that emphasized his muscular frame and metal bands around his wrists and ankles. His scales gleamed under the arena lights. Commander Jorik served as the official referee. He explained the rules to both combatants and the watching crowd. This is single combat under Zephyrian tradition. No weapons except natural abilities. No outside interference. Combat continues until one participant yields or is unable to continue. Elena and Scareth faced each other across the arena floor. The size difference was even more dramatic under the bright lights. Several observers wondered if Elena had made a terrible mistake. "Last chance to withdraw, little human," Scareth called out. "Yield now and I will make your death quick." Elena's response carried clearly across the arena. "Commander, I appreciate your concern, but I have a job to finish." "What job?" Elena smiled. And for the first time since arriving at Concordia, her expression held no warmth or diplomatic courtesy. "Teaching you why humans make such effective peacekeepers." The referee raised his hand. "Combatants ready, begin." Scareth launched himself forward with a roar that echoed off the arena walls. His claws extended, his fangs bared, his massive frame moving with surprising speed for something so large. Elena stood perfectly still until the last possible moment. Then she moved. The hunt had begun, but the galaxy was about to learn which species was truly the predator. The arena fell silent except for the sound of Scareth's claws scraping against the metal floor as he charged. Elena waited until he was 3 meters away, then moved. To the watching crowd, she seemed to simply vanish. One moment she stood directly in Scareth's path, the next she was behind him as his momentum carried him forward into empty space. His claws found nothing but air where she had been standing. Scareth spun around with surprising speed for something so massive. His yellow eyes tracked Elena as she circled him slowly, staying just out of reach. He swiped at her with extended claws, but she flowed around his attacks like water. "Stand still and fight," Scareth roared in frustration. Elena's voice remained calm. "Fighting is not about standing still, Commander. It is about movement, timing, and understanding your opponent." She continued to circle, forcing Scareth to turn constantly to keep her in sight. With each rotation, he grew slightly more off balance. Elena was not trying to hurt him yet. She was studying him, learning his patterns, finding his weaknesses. Scareth charged again, this time trying to corner Elena against the arena wall. She waited until the last second, then dropped low and rolled between his legs. As she came up behind him, her elbow struck precisely at the nerve cluster behind his left knee. The Zephyrian stumbled, but did not fall. His natural armor and muscle density protected him from damage that would have crippled a smaller opponent. But Elena had not expected to end the fight with one strike. She was mapping his defenses, testing his reactions. "You fight like a coward," Scareth snarled. "No honor, no courage, just running and hiding." "I fight like a human," Elena replied. "We learned long ago that honor is something you can afford only after you win." The crowd watched in fascination as the strange dance continued. Scareth would attack with devastating power, his claws capable of tearing through metal. Elena would evade by the smallest possible margin, sometimes so close that his talons brushed her clothing without touching skin. To untrained observers, it looked like Elena was barely surviving through luck and desperation. But military experts in the crowd began to see the truth. She was not running scared. She was conducting a detailed examination of her opponent's capabilities. Scareth's attacks followed predictable patterns. His right side was slightly favored due to an old injury. His balance shifted when he extended his claws fully. His rage made him telegraph his movements. Elena cataloged every weakness, every habit, every exploitable flaw. After 5 minutes of seemingly one-sided combat, Elena decided the analysis phase was complete. The change was subtle at first. Instead of purely defensive movement, Elena began to counterattack. Nothing dramatic, a quick strike to a pressure point, a trip that sent Scareth stumbling, a precise blow to joints and nerve clusters. Each attack was surgical in its precision. Elena did not waste energy trying to overpower her opponent. Instead, she targeted the specific points where even a Zephyrian's natural armor could not provide complete protection. Scareth began to slow down. The constant turning and charging was exhausting even his considerable strength. His attacks became slightly less coordinated as fatigue set in. Elena, meanwhile, seemed to have unlimited endurance. "What are you?" Scareth gasped between attacks. "I am a human diplomat," Elena replied as she evaded another clumsy swipe. "I am here to negotiate peace. This is not negotiation." "Yes, it is. I am demonstrating the terms of our agreement. You believe strength determines right. Very well. Let us discover who is truly stronger." Elena's tactics shifted again. Now she began to press her attack more aggressively. She moved inside Scareth's guard, too close for his claws to be effective. Her strikes came in rapid combinations, each one precisely targeted to cause maximum pain with minimal effort. A blow to the solar plexus left Scareth gasping. A strike to the inner elbow numbed his right arm. A perfectly placed kick to the ankle made him stumble. None of the attacks would have seriously injured a human opponent, but they were calculated for Zephyrian anatomy. The crowd began to realize what they were witnessing. This was not a desperate fight for survival. This was a lesson being delivered by an expert teacher to an unruly student. Scareth tried to grab Elena in a crushing bear hug, using his size advantage to end the fight quickly. She allowed him to catch her, then drove her knee up into his midsection while simultaneously striking nerve points on both his arms. His grip loosened involuntarily and she slipped free. "Impossible," Scareth wheezed. "You are too small, too weak. How do you hurt me?" Elena paused her attack, standing just outside his reach. "Commander, you have made the same mistake that many species make about humans. You assume that physical size determines combat effectiveness." She gestured at her own small frame. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We did not overpower our prey. We exhausted it, confused it, and struck when it was vulnerable. We learned to use intelligence to multiply our physical capabilities." Scareth charged again, but his movements were now clumsy with fatigue and pain. Elena sidestepped easily and delivered a perfect strike to the back of his neck. The Zephyrian crashed to the arena floor and struggled to rise. "You study war as individual combat," Elena continued, her voice taking on a lecturing tone. "One warrior against another, strength against strength. Humans study war as a problem to be solved. We analyze, adapt, and apply minimum force for maximum effect." She walked around the fallen commander, staying just out of reach in case he had energy for another attack. "Your species conquers through superior firepower and aggressive expansion. You take what you want because you are strong enough to take it. This strategy has worked well for you." Scareth managed to push himself up to one knee. His breathing was labored and his yellow eyes now held a flicker of something that might have been uncertainty. "But there is always someone stronger," Elena said quietly. "Always someone faster, smarter, more determined. The galaxy is vast, Commander. Humanity learned this lesson early in our development." She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could have grabbed her if he had the strength. "We learned that true strength comes from knowing when to fight, how to fight, and when fighting is unnecessary. We became diplomats not because we are weak, but because we understand the cost of war." Scareth tried one last desperate attack, lunging forward with his remaining strength. Elena caught his wrist in mid-strike and used his own momentum to throw him completely across the arena. He landed hard and did not get up. Elena walked slowly to where Scareth lay gasping on the arena floor. She knelt beside him, checking his pulse and breathing with practiced efficiency. "You are defeated but not dead, Commander. In human culture, this outcome shows respect for a worthy opponent. You fought bravely according to your traditions." Scareth looked up at her with confusion and grudging respect. "Why did you not kill me?" "You had many opportunities. Because my mission is to prevent war, not create more casualties. Your death would have made you a martyr and guaranteed decades of conflict. Your survival, and your understanding of human capabilities might actually lead to peace. Elena stood and addressed the crowd through the arena's communication system. The combat is concluded. War Commander Scareth fought with honor but has yielded. According to the terms we agreed upon, Zephyrian forces will withdraw from Talari space immediately and permanently. She turned back to Scareth, who was struggling to sit up. Commander, your empire has a choice. You can continue expanding through conquest, knowing that you will eventually encounter species capable of stopping you, or you can consider the benefits of peaceful cooperation with your neighbors. And if we choose conquest? Elena's smile was gentle but absolutely cold. Then you will discover that the galaxy contains many species like humans, peoples who appear peaceful but possess the capability for devastating war. I am one diplomat from one world, Commander. Earth has produced many others like me. She helped Scareth to his feet, supporting his weight as he recovered from the fight. The choice is yours to make. But understand that humanity will always stand with species threatened by unprovoked aggression. As medical teams arrived to treat Scareth's injuries, Elena walked to the center of the arena. She addressed the watching delegates and the thousands of beings following the broadcast across the galaxy. Today's demonstration was necessary to establish understanding between species with different values. The Zephyrian Empire respects strength above all else. They needed to see human strength before they could accept human friendship. She gestured toward Scareth, who was being helped from the arena by medics. War Commander Scareth is a brave warrior who fought according to his beliefs. He has earned respect through his courage, but courage alone is not enough to guarantee victory. Elena's voice carried clearly through the arena and across the communication networks. Humanity offers the same choice to all species: peaceful cooperation based on mutual benefit, or conflict resolved through whatever means prove necessary. We much prefer the first option. She walked toward the exit, her diplomatic robes waiting for her in the preparation area. The peace negotiations will resume tomorrow morning. I trust all parties now understand the stakes and the alternatives. As Elena left the arena, the galaxy's perception of humanity shifted permanently.